Hello there, welcome to my review of 1991's Terminator 2, the director's cut, coming 7 years after the original film, which now seems like a lightning-paced follow-up for James Cameron. Although, to be fair, he had also made Aliens and The Abyss in between, and it was well worth the wait. The plot sees the war against the machines continuing to rage in 2029, thanks to the successful survival of Sarah Connor and her son John, who we now see fighting the war in the future. Skynet is at it again, sending a Terminator into the past, and the humans respond by once again sending a Protector. The twist this time, and spoilers if you haven't seen the film and don't know about this, because it is much more fun to watch not knowing this, the Protector is a reprogrammed T-800 cyborg, while the machines are sending back a prototype T-1000, which looks far more human than the T-800, but is comprised of liquid metal.
A mimetic polyalloy.
Able to assume the form of other people.
Well, why not just become a bomb or something to get me?
You can't form complex machines. Guns and explosives have chemicals, moving parts. It doesn't work that way.
They have been sent back to 1995 LA, this time to kill John Connor as a kid, played by Edward Furlong. Sarah has been caught after attempting to take down Cyberdyne Industries before they launch Skynet, and has been incarcerated in a mental hospital. Sarah has told John all about what happened to her and the future, but he doesn't believe her, until the T-1000 shows up to kill him, and he's saved by the T-800. They then go on the run, breaking Sarah out of the mental hospital as they go. They escape to one of Sarah's old bolt holes, but she is still intent on stopping the apocalypse and saving her son from his destiny as the Resistance leader. She plans to kill the lead engineer for Cyberdyne, but unable to do so, he is then convinced to help them destroy all his research, including the arm and damaged CPU from the Terminator she defeated in 1984. All while being pursued by the T-1000. As with Aliens a few years earlier, what Cameron does with aplomb in this sequel is build on the concept of the first movie, but takes it in new and exciting directions with different themes and new character arcs for existing characters. While the plot of the first film is about preserving and protecting destiny, this film is about making your own future. But it's also about redemption, as both Sarah and John are pretty dysfunctional at the start of the film. John is what used to be known as a juvenile delinquent.
John!
And while Sarah isn't at fault for her incarceration, as she is right, her violent and careless methods push her to the brink of genuine madness.
Good morning, Dr. Silberman.
Her arc sees her go from this single-minded, dogmatically violent, angry one-woman army to someone who understands what it means to be hopeful and the importance of love. Meanwhile, the reprogrammed T-800, now able to learn how to be more human, becomes a surrogate father for John, and more human than the humans in the film.
The Terminator would never stop. It would never leave him. And it would never hurt him.
Sarah recognizes that this cyborg is a far better father than a man would be.
Never shout at him or get drunk and hit him or say it was too busy to spend time with him.
And what stops her from killing Miles Dyson is that he has a family and she doesn't want to be the one to deprive them of their father, as it would make her no better than the Terminator that killed Kyle Reese. As I mentioned earlier, the way this film begins is incredibly clever, as it begins like the first film, with Arnie's Terminator and a human-looking Terminator appearing from the future, and it isn't revealed that the T-1000 is the villain until he first tries to kill John. Up until that point, it appears as if it's just a repeat of the first film, with John now pursued by Arnie's Terminator. Unfortunately, this twist was spoiled by the trailer and all the promotional material that came out at the time. But structurally, it's a brilliant concept, and hopefully people watching the film for the first time now won't be as aware of the twist. This is certainly helped by the brilliant performance by Robert Patrick as the T-1000, who is able to appear just a little bit off in the opening of the movie, but not enough to definitely look like a cyborg.
Are you the legal guardian of John Connor?
Unlike Arnie in the first film. And even though his performance doesn't really change after the reveal, he appears more robotic the more we see him do, like his very unnatural running style. Cameron's combination of CGI and practical effects is pretty seamless, as well as his ingenuity. So we get pretty flawless CGI on the T-1000, practical effects and model work where we least expect them, and then a scene like this from the director's cut, which I advise as the version to watch, where this panning mirror shot is achieved with a dummy of Arnold, Edward Furlong's double, and Linda Hamilton's twin sister on one side of an empty frame, and Arnold, Furlong and Hamilton on the other side, mirroring each other's movements to ensure we get a shot that couldn't be achieved without showing the camera if they had just used a mirror. The behind the scenes of this film was not without its issues. There were rights issues that delayed production. It was the most expensive film ever made at the time, which would become a common James Cameron theme, and the effects-heavy nature of the film meant that it arrived in theatres the night before it was due to open in some cases. Also, due to Cameron's gung-ho attitude to safety, the crew refused to film a shot of a helicopter going under a bridge, as it was incredibly dangerous, and had even the slightest thing gone wrong, the pilot would not have survived. Luckily, all went well, and the shot was achieved by Cameron filming it himself. But the spectacle and difficulty of the resulting shot is probably lost on most audiences as just a small part of a larger chase scene. This is certainly not something that Cameron would do today, and would certainly have been able to achieve a similar result with the safety of CGI. The final thing I think is worth remembering is how brilliant Cameron is at crafting fully realised characters in even the smallest roles. John's friend has very little screen time, and yet we learn everything we need to know about him from when the T-1000 questions him in the arcade.
Do you know this guy?
Nah, I don't know.
Almost the whole staff at the mental hospital are given enough idiosyncrasies so that we know the kind of people that they are. Miles Dyson and his family are given enough screen time for us to understand he is a genuinely good person and family man, enthusiastic about the technical innovations he's working on, without any concept of the nightmare he will be responsible for.
You gonna work all day?
I'm sorry, baby, but this thing is just kicking my ass.
Danny, I told you to go to bed like your sister.
Just a couple of minutes, Mom!
He isn't a cynical, snarling villain intent on world domination, nor does he try to absolve himself of all responsibility when he finds out what becomes of his innovations. He quickly realises the scope of what he's been doing and willingly joins their cause. From a storytelling perspective, he doesn't really need to be there beyond the scenes at his house. They could have gone to Cyberdyne alone. They have a Terminator after all, and they are caught in pretty quick succession in the building anyway. Yet his addition brings an extra emotional depth to the story. The film isn't perfect, and I'm sure if you wanted to, you could go scene by scene and nitpick it to death. But why would anyone want to do that when you can just sit back and enjoy brilliant cinema from a master filmmaker? Thank you. Goodbye.